Everybody, welcome to an online meeting of RBKC's licensing subcommittee, and thank you for attending. I'm Councillor Pat Healy. I represent Dalgarno Ward, and I will be chairing this meeting, which is being held via Microsoft Teams and is also being streamed live. The committee for this hearing is myself, Councillor Charles Williams, and Councillor Malcolm Spalding. Councillors, can you please introduce yourselves?
Yes, I'm Councillor Charles Williams, Councillor for Redcliffe Ward, and I have no interest to declare in this matter.
Chairman, it's Councillor Malcolm Spalding. I'm the Councillor for Earls Court Ward, and also I have no declarations of interest.
Thank you. I also have no declarations to make. We're joined today remotely by Paul Phelan and Laura McGahan from the Council's licensing team, by our legal officer, Lindsay Mazurier. Also with us is our committee officer, Yasmin Yama, who will be monitoring all of our connections and help with any technical issues that may arise. She is supported by Gareth Ebenezer, Tom McColgan and Hannah Koskela. Before we start the hearing, just a few ground rules, please. It would be helpful if you keep your microphones on mute until you are invited to speak. And please make sure any mobile phones are on silent. Do keep your cameras on when not speaking if you want to, but it's helpful if you turn them off because it can cause connection problems. Please note that the Microsoft Teams chat function is not monitored, so please do not use it. In addition, this is a public meeting and the chat would not be seen in the live stream. Everyone should have received the procedure for this meeting regarding the use of cameras and how to connect back if you lose connection. Thank you. The case before us this afternoon is to grant a licence for Grand Brasseria of 282 to 292 Westbourne Grove, W11 2PS. The quorum for this committee is 2, as there is always the possibility that I may lose connection temporarily during the broadcast. I'm nominating Councillor Williams to be appointed as the substitute chair. Members, please confirm whether this nomination is seconded. Councillor Spalding.
I beg to second, Chairman.
Thank you. I confirm that Councillor Williams has been appointed substitute chair. Thank you, colleagues. For clarity, I will outline the procedure of the meeting, which, as already mentioned, has been circulated with the papers and is available online. First, the licensing officer, Paul Phelan, will give a brief outline of the application. Please could you confirm your attendance?
Good afternoon, Present Chair.
Thank you. Then I will ask the applicant's legal advisor, Ms. Insani, to present his submission, and you will have up to 10 minutes to do so. She is joined by her client, Mr. Frickelli, her colleague, Ms. Beck, and the acoustic consultant, Mr. Anderson, who may be able to assist members should they have any questions. Please could you all confirm your attendance?
Ms. Insani confirmed.
Thank you.
Alberto Fracquelli confirmed.
Torben Anderson confirmed.
Ms. Beck?
Natasha Beck confirmed.
Thank you. Once the initial submission has been made by the applicant, questions will be asked by members of the committee. Questions that may then be asked by the responsible authority of the applicant, and questions may be asked by the supporter and the objector of the applicant. The supporter, Mr. De Carvalho, sorry if I mispronounced that, will present his submission, and he will also have up to 10 minutes to do so. Please could you confirm your attendance?
Confirmed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Questions may be asked by members of the committee of the supporter, then questions may be asked by the responsible authority of the supporter, and then questions may be asked by the applicant of the supporter. After that, the objector may ask questions. The next step is for the responsible authority, Mr. Mahaffey, to present his objection. He will also have up to 10 minutes to do so. Please could you confirm your attendance?
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman. Keith Mahaffey here, and I'm attending.
Thank you very much. After that, questions will be asked by members of the committee of the responsible authority. Questions may be asked by the applicant of the responsible authority, and questions may be asked by the supporter of the responsible authority. And questions may also be asked by the objector of the responsible authority. Next, the objector, Ms. Fleming Brown, will present her objection. She will also have up to 10 minutes to do so. Please could you confirm your attendance?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions will be asked by members of the committee, followed by the responsible authority, and then the applicant, and then the supporter. After this, we will ask our legal officer, Ms. Missouri, to deal with any questions she may have, for example, regarding any conditions. Please could you confirm your attendance?
Present, Chair.
Finally, we will turn to the governance team to see if any issues have been raised that we need to consider. There will be no summing up and the meeting will end. I would like to remind everyone that the committee has read the papers, which comprise the main pack and additional submissions which have been circulated, so there is no need to repeat their content. But please do draw our attention to certain points and pages, and Yasmin will move the document on the screen for us. So let's get going. Mr. Phelan, please can you outline the case for us?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, all. Today's application has been submitted by Getty Limited for the grant of a premises licence at the Grand Brasserie 282-292 Westbourne Grove, W11 2PS. Today's application is for the grant of a premises licence which seeks the sale by retail of alcohol both on and off the premises from 10 AM until 11:30 PM Monday to Saturday, and from 10 AM until 11 PM Sunday, with a late night refreshment from 11 PM until midnight Monday to Saturday, and again until 11:30 PM on Sunday. This application has attracted a representation from Mr. Keith Mahaffey on behalf of the Environmental Health, Noise and Nuisance team on the grounds of the prevention of public nuisance. A summary of Mr. Mahaffey's representation can be found on pages 4 to 5, with a full copy attached to Appendix C, pages 40 to 41 of today's papers. 2 additional representations have been received which oppose this application. A summary of these representations can be found on pages 5 and 6, with copies attached to Appendix D on pages 49 to 51. This application has also attracted 6 objections in support of the application. A summary of these representations, which again are in support of the application, can be found on pages 6 to 7, with full copies also attached to Appendix D, pages 52 to 58. Council records indicate that no complaints or temporary event notices have been received within the preceding 24-month period. That concludes the summary of this application. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. And now we'll hear the applicant's case. Ms. Insani, please can you present your submission?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to all. I represent Getty Limited and Alberto Puquelli, Director of Getty Limited, in relation to the new premises licence application before you. The premises consists of a ground floor and basement, and of course the plans are within the pack. All the licensable activities will take place on the ground floor, and there is some back of house on the ground floor, namely the kitchen and the ambient WC, and some back of house in the basement. If I can take you briefly to the plans, just so that we can orientate ourselves. Thank you very much. You'll see the entrance, which is on the corner of the site, which is on the corner. And when you go through into the premises, you'll see the area at the front, which will be laid out with tables and chairs, which is the restaurant. And then thank you for that. And then to the rear, we've got the bar area to the rear. That's it, exactly where that is. And then you'll see above that, we have the toilet storage, and then there's the kitchen to the right of the cursor. The basement is all back of house, again, with toilet facility. So all licensable activities on the ground floor. Just to give an idea, we are looking at covers of 160 persons inside the premises, and the proposal, which will be a subsequent application to licensing for tables and chairs outside, of 36. My clients will have staff employed at the premises of 60 persons, and on a rota basis, there will be 40 person staff there at any one time. This is a highly staffed premises, and this is in line with their other operations that they have. This will be a high quality, family friendly restaurant, and the applicant, together with his brother Andrea Fraquelli, are well established and reputable operators of good quality, reasonably priced restaurants within Westminster and the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. These are food-led premises, and having discussed the matter with my clients at length, we would like to offer a further condition to our operating schedule, should the application be granted, that substantial food is available at all times throughout the premises when open. And this is in line with the extensive menu and drinks list which we have provided in our bundle and our evidence for the application. Submitted with the evidence for the application is a biography of the applicant showing their extensive experience in the restaurant industry. You will see from the biography that my clients already operate 4 other restaurants, 3 in Westminster and 1 in the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, being Zia Teresa at 6 Hands Road. Recently, my clients have opened the Brasseria Milanese at 42 Marylebone High Street, which is located under a large residential block, Basildon Court in Westminster. This site operates with approximately 40 to 50 covers outside, and I'm pleased to confirm that we have had no problems at all at the site. The premises is very well managed, and in particular the outside area is very well managed, and my clients are able to operate hand in hand with their residents above the restaurant. It is a valuable endorsement for what is proposed at Westbourne Grove. This application is for the grant of licensable activities in relation to the sale of alcohol on and off the premises and late light refreshment on the premises. The hours of sale of alcohol are 1000 hours to 23:30 Monday to Saturday and 1000 hours to 23 on Sunday, and these are well within your policy as stated at section 8.10. Your policy states that it is appropriate to generally limit opening hours to midnight in order to maintain the balance between residential and commercial interest. The policy goes on to state that the licensing authority will generally expect licensable activities to cease sufficiently before midnight to ensure the efficacy of such a limitation. This is why the sale of alcohol ceases 30 minutes prior to the closing of the premises, which is in line with your policy. Late night refreshment, the sale of hot food and hot drink after 2300 hours mirrors the closing hour, in line with your policy and in line with our consultation with the responsible authorities. It is important to highlight that we have engaged with the responsible authorities in pre-application prior to submitting this application, and this is reflected in the papers where you will find the pre-application report at pages 42 through to 48 of your report. Alberto Fraquelli also wrote to all the residents' associations at the addresses provided by the licensing officer following the pre-application meeting, and my client has been completely transparent in relation to what is proposed at the premises. It is important to note that following this extensive pre-consultation with the residents and the residents' associations in the area, we received 2 resident representations, one of which has now been withdrawn. We've also received 6 representations in support of the application as detailed in your report at pages 52 through to 58. It's important to note that the representation at page 58 is from Alexander de Carvalho, who is our neighbour and the resident directly above the restaurant. And of course, he is here in support of the application. Mr. de Carvalho has been contacted by Alberto Fraquelli from the start of this project and has been advised of all that has been proposed in the application. This reinforces the extent of the pre-consultation that has taken place, both of the responsible authorities and the residents prior to submitting this application. We of course engaged with Mr. Mahaffey in respect to the application, and I'm grateful for his representation detailing his requirements in respect of the new premises licence. We will comply with all of Mr. Mahaffey's requirements, and you will see in the proposed operating schedule there are conditions requested by Mr. Mahaffey in relation to acoustic works to ensure that the premises are soundproofed. These are agreed. We have with us also today Torben Anderson from RBA Acoustic, our acoustic consultant, who has prepared the report which has been served and which was provided with our application. The requirements of that report will be met by the applicant. The applicant is acutely aware that he has residents above the premises, and you will see that we have ensured that every step has been taken to ensure the premises are properly soundproof in relation to Mr. Mahaffey's requirements. You will note also that conditions have been agreed with Ian Davis, the Police Licensing Authority, including a condition at condition 19 of our operating schedule regarding the Notting Hill Carnival, and that there has been no representation made by the police to this application. With regard to the resident representations, I'm pleased to note that having met both myself and Alberto with Marion Gettelson, Miss Gettelson has now withdrawn her representation. With regard to the representation raised by Ms. Fiona Fleming Brown, Alberto Fraquelli met with Ms. Fleming Brown on a Saturday at the premises to discuss her concerns, and of course we have sent through a copy of my client's email to Ms. Fleming Brown dated 15th May, which appears in the supplemental papers. The main concern raised by Ms. Fleming Brown relates to the proposal of the seating area proposed outside. You will of course be aware that an application to place tables and chairs on the highway has to be made to the licensing authority, and that application is then considered by the licensing authority and highways and has a 28-day consultation period. That is required so that any local residents can make their comments known in relation to that application. If the application is contested, then the licensing committee will be required to determine the application. In the circumstances, we would refer the committee to the conditions proposed in our operating schedule in relation to the use of the outside area, which were agreed with the officers, in particular with Mr. Mahaffey in relation to any proposed noise nuisance. The conditions, in essence, of alcohol must cease at 21:30 hours in any tables and chairs outside, and all customers must vacate tables and chairs at 2200 hours each evening. I note there are conditions which we received from governance yesterday afternoon, which deal with rendering the tables and chairs unusable, which of course we will be asked to comment on later on in this hearing. It is extremely important that the premises have an outside presence, which is invaluable not only for the operation of the premises, but in times such as these when there are problems with social distancing. It is essential to have the ability to serve people with food and drink outside. We would also point out there are numerous premises within the vicinity who have tables and chairs licences. We've listed these in our supplemental documentation. There are 23 sites listed on Westbourne Grove and 50 on Portobello Road. Most of these have later hours than would be allowed to these premises with the conditions that we have agreed. I would also refer you to my client's operational management plan, which is a live document which will need to be updated regularly and will also deal with any matters raised by local residents going forward. This document appears at pages 12 and 14 of your papers. We are grateful to the residents for engaging with us, and my client is more than happy to meet with them whenever they would want to do so. All those that my client has engaged with have my client's contact details, email address, and as I've said previously, my client wrote to all the residents' associations prior to submitting this application who have not objected. This application is considered clear and sufficiently detailed with all the additional documentation provided. We have engaged thoroughly with all those persons relevant to this application. The application is within policy as set out at Section 8 of your licensing policy. All conditions offered with this application have been agreed in pre-application consultation with the officers and with the police. I would like to emphasise this is clearly a restaurant which is food-led, and in the circumstances, my client would like to offer an additional condition that substantial food is available at all times throughout the premises. The food is extremely important to our client and is reflected in the menus and drinks list they are provided with the application. In view of all the positive representations we've received, the application being made within your policy requirements and the high level of engagement with all concerned, we would ask you to grant this application as submitted together with the substantial food condition. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I ask my colleagues what questions they might ask, I'd like to clarify a couple of points. You have twice referred to a tables and chairs application. Do I understand from that that you are intending to put in a separate application for a tables and chairs licence once this hearing is over?
Yes, that is correct.
Do you have any idea when that might be?
Chair, that will have to depend on, obviously, if we do not receive the licence, then we would not complete the application, the lease, so we wouldn't be going ahead. If we do receive the licence and it's on the correct terms, then we would complete the lease, and then I will be asked to make that application as and when the client is ready for me to submit that application.
Thank you for that. Could I also ask, if we were minded to grant a licence today, when it is likely that the restaurant would actually be able to begin operating?
Chair, may I ask Mr. Frequelli to confirm? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Our intention is for the works to be completed on the 23rd of July, and we will be doing a soft opening, which is probably a closed invitation for 1 week with a hope to open fully from the 1st of August.
Thank you very much. Could I ask if my fellow councillors have any questions? Councillor Williams.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, just want to clarify a few points about this outside seating area. This application includes includes that area within the premises. Just for the avoidance of doubt, so that any sales there would be on sales. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right, that's helpful. If I presume I should go for a pavement license rather than the tables and chairs license, but I mean, I would just flag one concern, and I mean, if maybe it's better dealt with then, but I think we should discuss it, which is that at one point, thanks to the BT putting 2 cabinets on the footway, the distance between your hoarding, which presumably would be the boundary of the premises for this license, and the cabinets is 2 meters, which for the Portobello area, when the market's operating, indeed probably in the evenings as well, it isn't very much. I mean, what steps will you take to stop people congregating around there, perhaps chatting to their friends and so on, and obstructing the highway?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Should that application for any outside area be granted, it will have to be very, very carefully monitored by our staff, which will be part of our outside operational management plan. And of course, it's really important that they are there so that they would ask people to move on. There's got to be a clearance so that people can walk past. And obviously, and my client will address that. I'll ask him to speak about that in a moment. And it's managed by our staff outside. So the tables and chairs are regularly checked. There is a management present at all times for the outside area, and it will be managed, because obviously we are the ones responsible for that. If we don't keep that going, then that licence will not be, it will either be taken away from us or not renewed, because you have to have the relevant distance. Alberto, can you confirm, please?
Yes, thank you. So we can't see the proposed tables on this plan, but we've recognised that that area is tighter, so we're actually reducing the number of chairs from 4 to 2 on that corner patch to allow for more space for people to walk around. So if you see all the way along, the maximum number of covers that you could fit further down is 2 tables of 2, i.e. 4 covers, that we would like to do from where the pavement curves around. It's probably from around that bit all the way down, and then the corner area would only have 2 covers as opposed to 4, which would allow for closer to 3 meters of distance as opposed to 2, which I would believe is more than enough. I would note that our experience in Marylebone, which is a similar corner site, has a corner zebra crossing, and they've also installed cycle posts like this in a very similar manner. So we've had to deal with similar issues. So we would factor that into any application that we make in the future.
Thank you.
Councillor Spalding, you're muted. Councillor Spalding, you're muted.
It muted itself, but it's now unmuted. Can you hear me?
I can now, yes.
Yeah, good. Thank you. It's one of those time delay things when you think you've unmuted and then you click it again and it mutes itself. So I apologise for that. 2 questions. Looking at the diagram we have, we can clearly see, as Councillor Williams established, the red line for the licensable activities does cover that outside area. But I've got 2 questions. I think it would help if we looked at the plan, which is part of the acoustic report on page 36. If you look at that top diagram, if that can be made full screen, as the applicant said, you can see at the right-hand end there are only tables of 2. But there are 36 tables there altogether. So the first question is, we've seen Mr. Mahaffy's report, and I understand you're undertaking the works to implement the soundproofing internally. So what will be done underneath the canopy in terms of soundproofing or mitigating noise and nuisance from these 36 customers who will be outside?
Thank you, Councillor Spalding. Torben, could you address this, please?
Certainly. You can all hear me, hopefully.
Yes.
Good. So there are 2 elements, or 3 elements to the control of this potential noise. So firstly is a general good practice management of patrons using the external area, and that is one of the reasons why tables have been limited to a size of 4 rather than some bigger tables, which I've seen at other premises where you've got larger tables. People are needing to talk louder to each other and are generally noisier. But in this situation, we've got tables of 4. Often it will be tables of 2. Which helps to contain noise, and also there will be a continuous staff presence to make sure that customers, guests of the restaurant are behaving in an appropriate manner and talking at a sensible level rather than screaming and shouting. So that's part 1. Part 2 is there is no need for this to be a fully silent operation when assessed down at pavement level, because there is prevailing noise from road traffic along the area, which will, the technical term is mask some of this, some of the noise from the patrons outside, and cover that just from hiding that noise. And then finally, we're looking at an acoustic awning to go above the seating areas to provide some protection of sound from the direct sound transfer from the seated guests to the windows directly above. So it's a three-pronged attack. Hopefully that answers your questions.
That was very good, very thorough answer. Thank you. The second question, Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
also refers to this plan. Condition 24. The applicant has made much of their food offering, high quality food, very high quality restaurants, very highly thought of, and food based. Food is the main offer here. And the applicant has offered that substantial hot food will be available at all times. We sometimes go a bit beyond that with our conditions. And here we're suggesting a condition, alcohol shall not be sold other than to persons taking table meals and for consumption ancillary to the meal. Can I go back to that diagram that we just saw, the plan? And I just wondered what's happening. This is on page 36. On the left-hand side of this diagram is the bar, and there are something like 12 bar stools. Is that just a seated drinking area, or will you require people seating there also to take a meal, or will you just sell alcohol to them at the bar?
Well, thank you, Councillor Spalding. Everyone, let me just start by saying, in relation to the conditions, everyone who's going to be served alcohol has to be seated at all times, and alcohol everywhere can only be served by waiter or waitress. So that's really important. So people sitting at the bar, we envisage, most of them will be drinking, but what we would like to have is the availability to have people perhaps waiting there for their colleague to arrive and have a drink and then take their table, or also to have perhaps a lighter snack as opposed to a full table meal. Alberto, I think it'd be helpful if you also confirm the position.
Yep, I can confirm much of what Lisa said. I can also add that we've allowed enough space on the bar to enable full meals as well. So our intention is also to serve full meals on that bar. So it's by no means intended to be a bar where patrons come just to drink. It's a part of the experience. Apologies. So it's by no means intended to be a bar area where you would just stand and take a drink. It's part of the experience. Our restaurants offer 3 areas. They offer a terrace, a cafe and bar, and a dining room, and that's how we split our restaurants. So this bar element is a big part of the cafe area. So we define it as the cafe area. But the idea is that each customer will have its own favorite place in the restaurant, whether it's sat at the bar to have a meal or in the dining room or on the terrace.
Well, I just raised that point because I think it will come up in the conditions later, so you can think it through, that it's only seated and probably ancillary to a meal. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Could I ask if Mr. Mahaffey has any questions of the applicant?
Madam Chairman, I don't have any questions at this stage.
Thank you. And Mr. Carvalho, I'm sorry, Mr. Carvalho, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No questions at this stage. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And the objector, who have we got here objecting, apart from Mr. Mahaffey? Is there anybody else who's objecting?
I'm objecting. I'm Fiona Fleming Brown, and no, I don't have a question.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I should have your name in front of me and I don't. Okay. Would Mr. De Carvalho like to present his case as a supporter? You have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. And I will not take 10 minutes because I think most of what has been said and is included in my letter is enough to say what I would add. I would say, as a resident of the borough for the last 35 years, and in the last 12 years on the corner of Portobello and Westbourne Grove, I've watched a number of premises come and go, and I have become increasingly comfortable and happy with the resurgence of restaurants, bars, and small shops that are appearing back on this part of Westbourne Grove. I've seen the arrival of Soul Cycle. I've seen the arrival of various other restaurants and now, thankfully, a bar as well, which reflects the atmosphere that I so loved when I moved into my apartment 10, 11 years ago. I think we suffered over the last few years from too many real estate agents moving into that part of the road. And what I really love about the application and the brothers who have put this proposal together is the family-focused, all-day experience that will bring warmth, friendliness, and some happiness to that corner of the street. I don't have any concerns whatsoever around noise. I don't have any concerns whatsoever around smells. I think it's a very busy corner, Westbourne Grove and Portobello Road. We have a pub on the other corner. We have, like I said, a restaurant and now a bar on the same parade. We have, with All Saints, we've had constant works and deliveries during the night, people changing displays in the shop at all hours of the day. And so in respect to the proposed disturbances of a restaurant, I think actually on balance versus a retailer, the net impact will be significantly lower. There's for me an added value from a security perspective of having something open till 11 or even midnight every day with young kids and family coming in and out. It's nice to have lights on the street. And finally, I think it will be great for all of the shops that have taken a risk on that parade on Westbourne Grove to have a facility with the capacity, presence and draw of the brasseria on that corner to pull people into some of the other shops and premises along that part of the road, enabling them to survive in what sometimes is quite a hard left turn for people to make when walking down Portobello Road. So all in all, incredibly supportive, excited about having such a restaurant open on our parade, incredibly impressed and comfortable with what I've seen from Alberto and his brother Andrea over the last few weeks and months. The way they're going about renovating the premises as well gives me a lot of comfort that a lot of care and thought is being taken for the residents above during this period. So if that level of commitment, presence, and focus continues, nothing in this application worries me whatsoever. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and I will end my small soliloquy there.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Yes, Chairman. Mr. Cabada, I was slightly surprised you said you had no concerns about sort of noise. I mean, you obviously seen Mr. Mahaffey's concerns, and I mean, obviously the applicants try to address that, but I mean, do you not think there will be potentially problems from noise transmitting up through the floors and indeed from the outside? And I have one further question.
Do you want to add them together, or shall I?
Yeah, well, the other one was no, just a question of fact. I mean, are the other flats? I think there are 3 other flats above are they occupied at the moment?
Yes, as a 4, we've all been living there for around at least 8 years now together. So for me, the noise comes from people leaving bars and restaurants in other parts of Portobello Road and standing on our corner and screaming and shouting and singing songs. That's part of living in that part of London, and I'm comfortable about it, and as are my young kids. They seem to survive. We have large buses driving past the windows at all hours of the day as well, and we have people who delight in revving their motorbikes and cars and turning their music on with their roofs down, especially this time of year, at all hours as well. And for me, 30 people on small tables going about their evening business and having a nice bottle of wine with their spaghetti is not something that I think is going to amplify the current ambient levels of noise that we have. Rather, will provide potentially more of a humdrum experience. It's a very busy junction, as I've said, and we get a lot of louder, more disturbing noises coming from people who will not be exiting that restaurant, and those are the ones that actually I think can wake children up or actually disturb the sort of peace. A sort of regular humming restaurant underneath is far more attractive proposition for me than bouts of national anthems and chants and late night staggerings.
Good. Yes, I noticed. That's fine. Thank you very much. That's all.
Councillor Spalding.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Mr. Carvalho, one question. Looking at your email, I was looking at the 4th paragraph. You say any concerns that residents may have once the premises are up and running will be dealt with as quickly as possible. What sort of concerns did you have in mind?
I don't have any concerns, but if I speak to my neighbours, they also had concerns that maybe it would be loud or maybe it wouldn't be loud. And I think when we discussed sort of informally, most of us agreed that if we had a working relationship with the Fraquelli brothers, which we didn't actually have with All Saints, that we could say, would you mind not changing the lines at 2 a.m. and banging on the ceiling because that wakes up the kids, as opposed to, do you think you could make sure that people have their cigarettes around the corner or whatever else they want to do, or could you make sure that your wait staff tell people that there are children upstairs not to scream and shout when leaving the buildings? If we could have that level of interactive conversation, which to date we have had, that anything that arises, post the application being approved will be mitigatable, or there'll be mitigating ways of improving the situation. I think all of us felt that with the previous retailer, that there wasn't much we could do to limit what was happening. There were large air conditioning units that created vibrations through the house. There were, like I said, works that would take place during the evening. To be clear and to clarify that paragraph, I don't have any concerns. If concerns arise from unforeseen circumstances, I feel confident, given the relationship that I've managed to build with the Fraquelli brothers over the past few months, that we could have a good conversation about how to improve the situation should it deteriorate.
Okay, I got that. Just to be clear then, I mean, you've mentioned people coming and going, you've mentioned smoking, and you've mentioned a kind of ongoing meetings with residents and the operators of the premises to maintain the good relations that you have in future.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you. Good. Thank you.
Just to summarize, I mean, this is again a very entrepreneurial, exciting, active part of Kensington and Chelsea, right? And a restaurant of this size with this sort of offering is a very natural, I think, addition to this corner. And those of us living on that corner are very positive about things that add weight and significance to the value of that parade in terms of traffic throughput, the ability to support other smaller shops along that parade, etc. And I think if one wasn't prepared for a certain amount of background ambient noise, one wouldn't buy an apartment above what was a busy retailer next to a pub and on a very busy junction, particularly on weekends. So I just wanted to express and make that clear, that I think, it fits very well with the style and choices that have been made by residents that live in the current crossroads.
Thank you. Mr. Mahaffey, do you have any questions?
I don't, Madam Chairman, I don't.
Thank you. Does the applicant have any questions?
No, Madam.
Thank you. Miss Fiona Fleming Brown, I apologise I didn't have your name previously. Would you have any questions of this witness?
I would just ask whether you've liaised with any of the neighbours who are opposite in Aston House. This is the social housing block on the corner of Portobello Road and Westbourne Grove, because there are neighbours and residents affected by this other than the people who live directly above it.
Thank you, Fiona. I've liaised with all of the relevant residents' associations which I felt were affected. I haven't been able to get access to a relevant contact in that specific block. I can't possibly contact everyone in the area. I contacted directly the people above. You're right to say that the people across the road may be affected in the same way that they'd be affected by the pub that's closer to them on the other side. And I would like to engage with them if there's anyone able to give me the relevant contact who represents the building. But at the same time, I believe we are addressing as best we can any concerns they may have and have taken all the steps to do so.
Thank you. I think we need to move on now to the case by the responsible authority. Mr. Mahaffey.
Good afternoon, Madam. First of all, I would like to say I very much welcome the responsible, proactive approach taken by Ms. Insani and her colleagues to undertake the pre-application advice on these type forms of applications and be able to liaise with us on the various issues that could arise and hopefully have them addressed before they come to committee with their application. It's very much appreciated. This application moved forward a lot quicker because there was so much information available, and an awful lot of the issues that had given rise to concerns were addressed within the documents and the papers that were provided. As you will see from my application, my concern basically is that we have residents above, and if there's inadequate isolation and insulation of the building structure, then clearly noise generated in the normal operation of the business will cause problems to these residents. The problem is that if buildings are acoustically treated to stop external sound coming in, then internal transmission sound then becomes a problem. And this is the concern I always have with these environments, because you've got a lot of external noise externally. And basically people put acoustic glazing across the windows. The acoustic glazing means their internal levels are reduced. And as they're reduced, then noise from other restaurants or residential units and commercial units then can come more to the forefront. What would normally be masked would normally then become more apparent within the property. And that's the concern we have. And that was the reason why we asked for sound insulation assessment being done. Now, I've worked with Mr. Anderson for many years, and clearly if I was going out for a consultant, he'd be one on the top of my list. So he is a good consultant. He's somebody that I trust. And his application or his report basically covers all the issues. The only thing that I'm not familiar with is the isolation layer that he is suggesting should go into the premises. I've been to the premises on a couple of occasions to look at the acoustic ceiling going in, and I've looked at the cladding of the walls within the premises, and they're all being done correctly. What you're doing is building a box within a box, and hopefully that box will then provide sufficient isolation and insulation to stop the sound going forward. So the processes and what's in the application, in my view, is what I would expect from for proper insulation. The big issue really is the exterior of the premises and the management of it. Now, again, this will all come down to the operational plan, and we have a kind of a draft of it. Again, as Ms. Insani says, it is a living document. It's something which will have to be developed. It'll have to evolve over time and with residents' input. Now, I always like to find that residents should be involved with the external management plan because they should have some form of ownership, because they are the people that are going to be affected by it, and they are the people who can advise on how the premises impacts on their quiet enjoyment of their property. So there are certain things that can be done, and I very much welcome the initiative taken by the applicant to basically move this forward. Clearly, the issue really here is the fact that The premises has been thought about before anything has been done. We are moving forward with a good application. We're moving forward with good information. Everything that can be identified has been identified. Hopefully there will be not any unforeseen circumstances that may arise, but that is something which Mr. Anderson and I can work on as and when the premises come to a conclusion from the development. And I'm very happy to do that. So I'm very happy with the application. I'm happy with what has gone forward, and I think it's a credit to the applicant and the solicitor to basically take this to the stage at which it's at. The other issue we were discussing earlier was whether table meals should be an ancillary to the sale and supply of alcohol. I very much agree with Councillor Spalding. From a public nuisance perspective, that it would always be better to have it later in the evening. During the daytime, people may want to go out and have a drink out with their friends, some of whom may want to eat and others who won't. There has to be some sort of versatility for the premises. And I would always consider that after 8 o'clock in the evening, the majority of people in the premises should be eating on the premises. And if you are considering this this condition, then clearly it would only be after 8 p.m. And I would suggest that it should be within the restaurant area rather than within the bar area. So it gives people a little bit more flexibility in their operation. Madam, I don't have anything further to say, and I think I've covered most of my concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Mahaffey. It kind of sounds like you are no longer objecting to the application.
Madam, I wasn't objecting to the application. I was made a representation outlining the processes that have gone through. This application, I was expecting a considerable number of representations to come in. And if these applications were coming in, I felt it would be my duty to be at a committee to help answer any questions that would arise. So I always like to hold on to my representations so that if there was something that did arise, that you could ask me questions on it. Once I withdraw my representation, I have no right of audience at the hearing.
Okay, thank you for that. Do other members of the committee have any questions?
Yes, Chairman. Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Mahaffey, for coming to the committee. Firstly, to sort of explain more about sort of how your confidence in how things were going in respect to the installation works, and also, of course, to answer our questions. I have one question, which is if you look at the draft conditions circulated by the solicitor on the page 4, the number 23, the external doors and windows should be kept closed at all times except for immediate access and egress from XX hours, which I think you support having such a condition.
Yes.
What is your view on what the hour should be that is in that condition?
Well, I think it should be 10 p.m.
Right.
Something similar to what the use of the external terrace is.
Yeah, fine. Well, it obviously has to be sort of linked in with that.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That was my only question.
Councillor Spalding?
No questions, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant want to ask Mr. Mahaffey any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. And Ms. Fleming Brown?
No questions.
Thank you. I think we should be moving on to the objector, should we not?
I would just like to say thank you to Mr. Mahaffey for his considerations and for making me feel like a very well looked after member of Kensington Chelsea. I'm just not used to being able to hear how people like Mr. Mahaffey go about his job, and I feel incredibly privileged to be looked after so well. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Ms. Fleming Brown, would you like to present your case, please?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Fiona Fleming Brown. I'm the chair of the Pembridge Association, and I've been a local resident for 35 years. I've lived off Portobello Road for the past 22 years, and I'm also a member of the Royal Borough's Market Streets Action Group and the Coalville Forum. So in this capacity, I've been part of a lot of discussions with residents, traders, councillors, and businesses in Westbourne Grove over the years. And this has also included the planning process for the former occupant, All Saints. So I'm very familiar with the site and its neighbours. I've also met with Mr. Fraquelli and discussed his operation and our concerns in detail, and within the context of Saturday trading outside on the 15th of May. The objections of the Pembridge Association to the variations of the licence proposed in this application are based on issues of nuisance to neighbours and its effect on stallholders in this section of the market. 282 to 292 Westbourne Grove is a very large site, which has residential neighbours not only above it, but also across the road in Westbourne Grove, and in large numbers in the social housing in Aston House opposite it. This proposed licensing application would take a usage of the site from a 6-day retail operation, typically open between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m, to a 7-day early start and late hours restaurant with both indoor and outdoor servings. The outdoor proposed to be until 9:30, so we're talking about 160 covers inside and 36 outside, so it's a substantial operation. Whilst the objections of my members, the residents living in close proximity to the site, are generally detailed, specific and various, the supporters of this application, with one exception, tend just to say that they will enjoy using the premises as a place to eat. And with the exception of the resident who lives above, these supporters chiefly live in W2 or W10. So we'll get to experience the pleasures of the restaurant, but not the noise and disruption and nuisance. It's significant that they make no reference to their neighbours in the historic antiques market. We defer to Mr. Mahaffey and his colleagues in environmental health with respect to the adequacy of the proposed acoustic treatments, and we welcome condition 15, which prohibits the use of the ground floor until soundproofing works have satisfied their scrutiny. But we ask that with regard to conditions 17 and 18, regarding noise, vibration from plant and cooking smells, there is an assessment within 6 months of the premises commencing operation, which will involve a cross-section of stakeholders, as envisaged in the additional suggested condition 22. We believe such meetings could be an effective route for the Fraquellis and their neighbours to amicably resolve any issues which arise, and the Pembridge Association would certainly wish to contribute to such a body were it to be established. We support the additional suggested condition 23 regarding closure of doors and windows at all times, save for entry, exit and emergency usage. But given the premises air conditioning equipment, we see no valid reason why this should not be included as a condition of the licence, and it would be most unfair to expect residents who have lower ceilings and no mechanical ventilation to be disturbed by noises escaping from a premises which does enjoy these benefits. If this committee for any reason agrees to waiver suggested condition 23, we would request that it then strengthens condition 1 to prohibit music or amplified sound entirely. At the time of my meeting with Mr. Fraquelli on the 15th of May, he assured me that he didn't intend to use such music. However, I made the point then, which I reiterate now, that should he ever be in a position where he needs to assign his lease, enshrining this as an absolute condition would prevent a less reasonable operator from causing nuisance. Many of our concerns about this operation focus on the use of the proposed 36 external seats grouped in large 4-person tables, which the applicant has kindly and transparently shared with us, and which will be the subject of a separate application. The adoption of additional suggested condition 30 regarding the requirement for guests consuming alcohol outside to be seated at tables will be very much welcomed by the Pembridge Association generally, but would be vital for Saturday trading when the antique stallholders and their customers are trading, should such a permission be granted. For clarity, I should state that the Pembridge Association has an in-principle opposition to the use of the outdoor forecourt space during the traders' daytime hours on Saturdays. It's particularly objected to in the context of a 4-person table and 36 covers format, which we consider excessive, when the pavement space which waiters would need to access to deliver to the tables is less than 2 metres. The pavement space is used on Saturday daytime for customers to gather and browse the stalls, or as a breakout area by tourists, when there were a lot of tourists. And I've shared with the ward councillors Henderson and Press photographs that show that even on a recent couple of very rainy Saturday mornings, the traders and their customers do fill the pavement, looking at goods and enjoying the street scene in a relaxed way across the pavement, as they've famously done for many decades. I therefore question, especially when tourists again return to Portobello, how these large outdoor tables can avoid causing nuisance when shoppers will be jostling for pavement space with waiters with laden trays. We seek assurance that additional suggested condition 29 prohibits guests waiting outside the premises to be seated before 8 in the morning and after 8 p.m. and at any time on Saturdays during the daytime trading hours of the stallholders. Queues which would further obstruct the pavement on Saturdays would be especially unwelcome. Additional suggested condition 35 regarding any takeaway service should also be subject to discussion with the neighbourhood meeting group envisaged in additional suggested condition 22 in advance and not allowed to commence without liaison with community stakeholders. The Portobello Road Antiques Market is internationally famous and one of the brand icons of RBKC, as well as a much-loved community asset which brings together a very diverse group of people across many divides, something that's both cherished and important in North Kensington. Local residents, however, are facing the cumulative effect of larger, late hours and 7-day licensed premises as a diminishment of their quality of enjoyment of their homes. Most of the newer hospitality businesses have hugely benefited from the distinctive, lively market ambience and a number of local and tourist guests. It is, after all, why they seek to locate their premises here. We ask that this licensing subcommittee strikes a balance between the desire of new enterprises, such as the Frequellis, to maximise their profitability and number of covers, with the interests of residents and small traders who need protection from noise and nuisance to preserve the culture of the market, which we firmly believe will be to the benefit of all stakeholders, current and future. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Chairman, yes. How far along Westbourne Grove from Portobello do the pitches extend on Fridays and Saturdays? Will it be along the whole of the Westbourne Grove frontage of this these premises?
Sorry, Councillor Williams, are you addressing your question to me or to?
Yes, because you obviously know the area well and you're involved with the market.
There is little trading on a Friday in Portobello Market and not on the Westbourne Grove section. But on Saturdays, there are stalls. They're clearly marked out on the road.
Right.
And typically people have demountable portable tables and perhaps a few things put in front of the table. But what tends to take place is an inter-dealer market in the very early hours of operation. So there's a lot of toing and froing between stallholders. Then there is the locals coming and going, looking at things, perhaps local collectors. And then in better times, there are large numbers of tourists. But this pavement is only 2 meters wide. So it will change the character of the area if a large number of 4-person tables are allowed on this frontage.
I'm only puzzled because I'm looking at a photograph I took a couple of days ago across the road of the premises, and I can't see any pitch markings. So you assure me there are stalls on Westbourne Grove as opposed to Portobello, where there obviously are.
Yes, they are. The pitch markings are actually on the road, not on the pavement.
Yeah, I was looking at the road.
But you're right, Councillor. There are no pitch markings on Westbourne Grove as there are on Portobello Road. But it is, I believe, from what I've spoken to, it's almost a holding place for people waiting for pitches on Portobello Road. And there are around 6 to 8 traders who frequent the pitch that would be from that corner of Portobello and Westbourne Grove down to around where Knight Frank's store is.
Yeah, thank you.
And that area is, as Fiona said, used on Saturday mornings exactly as she described.
Thank you.
Set up in the early hours, traded, and then frequented slightly, not very much, but frequented by tourists after the hours of 8 o'clock, probably after that sort of trader to trader and other traders.
I think there are two other points. One is that shortly the rent-free period for traders ends. So that will be a real crunch point to see whether all the traders will return. But certainly I'm happy to share with the committee photographs that I've taken over the past 2 Saturdays to indicate the number of people who are trading and people attending their stores.
I'm sorry, we can't accept extra evidence at this stage.
Okay, that explains it. That's helpful. I think I understand the situation.
Okay. Councillor Spalding? Councillor Spalding, do you have any questions? I take it that's a no.
Yeah, no questions from me, Chairman. Sorry, my mute is so slow.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mahaffey, do you have any questions of this witness?
Apologies, Madam Chairman. I don't have any questions whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant?
No questions, Chair.
Thank you. And the support
Alexander
is now joining.
Sorry, who's now joining?
Sorry, I had to switch to mobile. My computer's out of battery. It's Alexander de Cavallo.
Okay. I think we've dealt with all the questions to the objector. So I would like to ask Ms. Lemessurier if she has anything to add.
Thank you, Chair. No, I don't have anything to add, but I'm ready to go on to the conditions session if you're ready.
I think that's a good idea. Yes, please.
Okay. Can I just chip in whilst we go through the conditions, particularly the extra conditions which I've suggested? Could Ms. Fleming Brown chip in, because I wasn't able to write down every single thing she said. So if there's a condition that she mentioned in her representation and we're discussing it, perhaps she could chip in at that point as well, please, just so that I'm clear what her points are. Right, okay. So the draft conditions were circulated yesterday. What I'm proposing to do is I won't read every single one out. I'll just call out the number, and if the applicant could confirm that whether they're happy with each condition. So condition number 1, are you happy with that?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Number 2?
Yes, we are. Alberto, can I ask you to take your mic off, please, to unmute so that you can contribute?
Yep, sure.
Thank you. So number 2 is agreed.
Thank you. So number 3, I'll read it out, this one. The sale of alcohol shall cease in the outside seating area at 21:30 hours each day and shall not be used for consumption of alcohol by customers between 2200 and 10 o'clock the following morning. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. Yes, that's agreed.
Thank you. Number 4, obviously I've added in some words in red. Are you happy with the revised condition?
Yes, Ms. Lemessurier, that's absolutely fine, but it's implicit in the condition that it relates to the entire premises, so that we don't have a problem with that. Okay.
Okay. Number 5.
Yes.
Chairman, I think I fear that this came from a draft for another case. I don't think it's Crompton Court.
No, I'm grateful to you, and I was going to put that out.
I was on that case.
I'm very grateful to you, Councillor. This was on. It was on the pre-app, so this is a mistake. So could we delete residents of Crompton Court
and put,
please, and just say, so it should now read, which shall be provided to the licensing authority and local residents associations.
Does Ms. Fleming Brown want any particular residents added in just for the committee to consider?
I think the 2 conservation areas, the Ladbroke Association and the Pembridge Association, and also the Portobello Court Residents Association.
Yes.
Sorry, can you just bear with me? So Ladbroke Association, Pembridge Association, and Portobello
Court Residents Association.
Sorry, what's the third one? Sorry.
This contains Aston House as well.
So Portobello
the
Court
Brook
Residents Association.
Bridge Association, and I missed the third one, sorry.
I think that was Portobello Court.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. Alberto, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Are they the local residents associations, or are they in addition to the local residents associations, Fiona?
Sorry, go on.
There would be the two conservation area authorities and the estate representation.
So do I keep in the words "and local residents associations"?
I think you should, because we may have missed some.
I think you have to, yes.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Right, number 6. Are we happy with that?
Yes.
Thank you. Number 7, my revised condition, my revised number 7 in red, yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just for the record, we put in the CCTV condition that the police requested. So I'm going to send this because we didn't have the rest of that. You see what I mean? So we would have put that in for you. Yeah.
I think it's on the previous page. Have I not put it in black above those words? And then I've
offered, and then there's the addition in red, which is your addition.
So my words in red are instead of your words in black.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
That should kind of.
That's agreed. That's agreed.
Number 8.
Yes, that's agreed.
9.
Yes.
10.
Yes.
11.
Yes.
12.
Yes.
13 with my.
Sorry. Bear with me 1 second. Sorry. To make sure. 13. Yes.
Thank you. 14.
There's a minor typo in 13. It should be the sale by retail of alcohol.
Shall be the sale. All right, thank you. That's my typing.
Yes.
Beg your pardon.
Yes, thank you.
Number 14.
Yes.
15.
Yes.
16.
Yes.
17.
Yes.
18.
Yes.
19.
Sorry. Can I say something about 17 and 18?
Yes, please do.
We requested that with regard to conditions 17 and 18, there will be an assessment within 6 months of the commencement of operations at the premises, which involves a cross-section of stakeholders in the group which is envisaged in condition 20, proposed condition 22.
Could that be dealt with under condition 22? Could that form part of the discussions under 22?
From Mr. Mahaffey, because these are conditions that are part of. I mean, these are conditions that are on virtually every single license in this. So you know,
Madam,
welcome, Mr.
Mahaffey.
Madam Chairman, there is a planning application for the kitchen extract. And when you're dealing with planning, you deal with amenity. And what you do is you preserve amenity. So we have conditions under the planning which look at imperceptibility of noise and smells from kitchen extract system. So basically, if you can hear the kitchen extract and you can smell it, then it's not compliant with their conditions.
Thank you for that.
So it's something more stringent than what we can put on through the licensing process. That's why the planning has a greater requirement than what we can have here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Right, turning to my suggested additional conditions, number 20. Can I have your view on that, please?
We've discussed all the proposed conditions, which when we receive them, thank you for these. And my client is very happy to accept condition 20.
Thank you. 21?
Yes.
Sorry, on 20, it should be designated area, shouldn't it?
Thank you. Sorry, that's me typing fast. Thank you. 22? And shall I include those previous residents' associations that we had?
Agreed. Sorry, 22.
Yeah.
Alberto, yes, I think.
Yeah, this is fine. The only concern from a data protection point is that I'm being asked to display on the windows, which would be my personal details. I don't actually have a separate work and personal mobile, so I'd rather be able to send an email to all the relevant associations and maybe be given a list, and/or them have my contact details specifically, as opposed to having it on a window displayed for everyone to see and contact, if that's possible.
Sorry, I'm just trying. Is there a separate condition that requires the number to be put there? Okay, well, the councillors will have to take a view on that. So you'd rather an email rather than telephone number?
I agree. Just as a suggestion for the committee to consider. So we agree the first sentence. So residents at least 2 times per calendar year.
Yes.
The details of the proposed meeting shall be circulated by the premises licence holder DPS.
Yep.
Yeah, premises licence holder DPS. To local residents associations, and then if we could add the other associations that that the objector has asked for. Yeah.
Yep, got that.
Of a meeting date at least 2 weeks before the meeting.
Yeah, okay.
That's something the committee can consider. So that would then help my client with data protection, which he's got a point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I made note of that. Okay, so going on to condition 23, I think Councillor Spalding made reference for it to include waiting staff, and I think Mr Mahaffey made reference to 2,200 hours. Yes. I don't know what the councillor's view is.
Okay, well, we would be happy with the 2,200 hours.
Okay. Okay, so happy. And so the external doors and windows shall be kept closed at all times, except for immediate access and egress from 2,200 hours until the premises closes to the public and staff, and in the case of an emergency.
So it should be set to immediate access to the public and to staff, and in the case of an emergency. Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
24, alcohol shall not be sold on the premises other than to persons taking substantial, maybe table meals there, and for consumption by such a person as an ancillary to their meal. Do you want to try and combine that substantial in there, which you've offered?
No, I offered that as an alternative. So
okay.
It's a matter for the committee. We've offered a condition that substantial food is available at all times, which it will be. So that condition can sit on its own. This is an additional condition which has been put to us.
Yeah.
And I would like to confirm, having taken instructions, that we are very happy with the proposal made by Mr Mahaffey.
Yeah.
In line with what he recommends and what is across the board, that there's a restaurant condition imposed after 8 p.m. so after 2,000 hours.
Yeah.
At the premises to the restaurant area only.
Right, okay.
Now, using the drawing on page 36, which shows the furniture, we can very easily identify the bar area. It's very, very clear to identify. So if we could say in the restaurant area, and then I can send you a drawing with the hatched area of the bar.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Obviously, that's for the councillors to decide.
Totally, it's a matter for the committee. We accept that. We're very grateful. I'm very grateful to Mr Mahaffey for his experience and his comments on that.
Thank you. Turning to condition 25.
Yes, that's agreed.
26.
Let me just check. Sorry. Now I think this needs to be amended to read, and again, it's a matter for the committee. All sales of alcohol for consumption off the premises shall be in sealed containers only.
Yeah.
That's the extra words, except to those persons in any external eating area.
Yep.
Just to make that absolutely clear. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
27.
Okay. Alberto, I think you wanted to comment on the times here.
Yeah, my only comment here is that it says 8 o'clock. Operationally, we open the doors at 8 and we would accept deliveries up to 1 hour before. So 7 a.m. would be a preference. I would emphasize we're not a supermarket where lorries are going to be outside. We're talking fresh produce that comes in on a daily basis and goes straight into the kitchen, into the fridges. So obviously this is up to the councillor's decision. But if we can have 1 hour before we open our doors to process the deliveries and that way it wouldn't affect our operations, I'd be very appreciative.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can consider that. Mr. Mahaffey, you wanted to come in.
Madam Chairman, I wouldn't have an issue with a 7 a.m. start in regards to that, for the simple reason that there is a certain residual noise in Westbourne Grove at 7 a.m. So I wouldn't be opposed to 7 a.m. commencement.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Turning to condition 28.
Yes, that's agreed.
29. So the external eating or seating area, that should be, shall be kept clear of all customers between. Now we've got 2 times. I mean, I don't know if the committee will obviously have thoughts on that. What's your thoughts and what's Miss Fleming Brown's thoughts on that?
Sorry. Do you want my thoughts?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yes. So the external seating area shall be kept clear of all customers between, and it will be 2200 hours when we have offered to close the outside, and 0800 hours the following day. And that then reiterates and mirrors what we offered in our operating schedule and with our discussions with everybody and the other licenses that exist for seating areas outside.
Lovely, thank you. Miss Fleming Brown, did you have anything to comment on that one?
I think that we'd be broadly comfortable with it. Where we envisage problems is if there is a larger group of people in the queue, because that will be noisy. People will be hanging around waiting for seating, and particularly if the tables and chairs licenses outside is granted, this will be a tremendous nuisance on a Saturday.
Sorry, Lisa, to interrupt. If we go,
you need to reassure here.
Yeah, if you could go to the plan on page 36, we've actually tried to allow for extra area in front of the reception desk and on the right for people to come internally and to potentially wait for their table, as well as obviously the option to give them a seat at the bar. So we were actually proposed by our designers to have a table there and or a sofa, but we've insisted on leaving that space so that there's more space for people who are waiting to congregate internally so that we don't disturb the local patrons.
And you would monitor
that. One more question just from me. Sorry to interrupt if this is against the protocol, but there is noise on Westbourne Grove on a Saturday morning from about 4 a.m. when traders start gathering and talking to each other and setting up their stalls. And I'm very certain that actually a queue that would form, and if it did form, it would form on a Saturday, not on a Wednesday or Thursday at 7 a.m. would be less than the noise generated by general trade that is happening as market stalls get set up, market traders arrive, and fresh produce is delivered to the Notting Hill Fish Shop opposite the premises that we're discussing right now as well. So just from experience living there and being there every Saturday morning, it doesn't feel like a queue is going to create additional ambient noise above what is already quite a bustling time of morning.
If I may make a comment, Chair, I think my response there wasn't about noise, it was about obstruction. It's about pavement obstruction.
Yeah. Okay. Alberto, can you correct the entrance point, please, that you want to do?
Yes, apologies. So when Lisa introduced, she mentioned that the entrance would be on Portobello Road corner, but that's not true. The entrance is actually on Westbourne Grove, and we've chosen that to avoid the cluttering that could happen on the corner and could happen on a very busy high road of Portobello Road. Now, this gives us more space, and it also gives us the space that we've allowed for on the right internally for customers to wait. And the whole aim of that is to try and avoid any cluttering and or to interfere with any of the local markets on a Saturday.
But can you confirm, I mean, we've discussed this, I know you've met with Fiona, the control that you'll have there about people queuing and not disturbing others?
Yeah, I mean, the front desk will be manned throughout all of our operations from 8 a.m. till midnight. It's part of our external operational plan to have members of staff as well who will be ushering people along. In no way do we expect to have congregations externally. You'll see that the restaurant is big enough internally to also provide for all the customers, and it's very rare operationally that we will have every table full at the same time and have people waiting. We obviously operate tables, shifts, and use reservation systems so that we don't have overcrowding as well.
Thank you.
So can I just confirm the entrance will no longer be on the corner? It's being moved to Westbourne Grove?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to condition 30, please. If we could go back to the conditions, please.
Yes, that's agreed.
Thank you. 31.
Yes. Here I'd like to request if we could have it at 22:30 hours. I know that's slightly later than the 22 hours that we've put in condition 29. This is an operational necessity because obviously we have to get all the customers off the tables by 2200 hours, and we need to allow then our staff to then go outside and start to stack them up and render them unusable. So if we could have that window of half an hour, it would be extremely beneficial, and it's almost unrealistic for us to get everyone out and make them unusable at the same time, if possible.
Okay, so the committee can consider that. Okay. 32.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's agreed.
33, staff training.
Yes, it's agreed.
34.
Yes.
And 35. I think Ms.
Yes.
Fleming Brown had a comment on that one. Do you wish to chip in?
Yes. I think the point that I made was that if the Frequellers do decide that they want to operate any sort of takeaway service, we would like to see it discussed in advance at the neighbourhood meeting. So not that there will be a presumption that they can do it, and then if there's trouble, they could, that will be addressed at that stage. We would like to know in advance and have the opportunity to have input before it happens.
That I think is extremely sensible. Yeah. And the only thing I would say is that would definitely need to be done. And obviously the condition 22 means that twice a year or more when we meet, this would need to come up, and the Frequellis would need to let you all know if they were proposing this. What this says is that we have to have a strategy and we have to have an operational plan in relation to this. And if we breach this, then we are in breach of our premises licence.
Which I can happily agree to. We have never operated with Deliveroo or any of those operators because we serve our community and we don't believe in it. So I don't see this as an issue.
You don't know what's going to happen going forward. The point is we don't use them, but it's implicit that we would have to raise that, and this condition means that we have to have a proper strategy in place, which would contain the input of the residents.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would just like to add, Chairman, and of course, when looking at licence conditions, we have to take into account possible changes of ownership of premises, because it is the licence is not personal to Mr. Frequelli. And also, we need to also consider that conditions are succinct and enforceable and workable. Yeah. And there has to be a cut-off as to where we go with it. That would be my input.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I've just got one more, if you don't mind, Chair.
I didn't realise there was another one. Yes, please, go on.
It's the substantial food condition, which they're additionally offering.
Right, yes.
Can I just read out our standard condition and have your thoughts?
Yes,
please? Substantial food and non-alcoholic beverages, including drinking water, shall be available to customers throughout the permitted hours for the sale of alcohol. And available at all times during, well, sorry, substantial food should be permitted at available at all times during the permitted hours.
We don't have a problem with that because we're doing that in any event. Thank you.
I don't know if anybody else has got any other things they wish to add.
Licensing officers?
Sorry, Chair, I just wanted to clarify. Apologies. In terms of, there was mention that there would be an amendment to the plan on page 36, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to clarify that any amendment to that plan would also be would be required to be made to the plan on page 24, the actual plan attached to the
yes,
the application, just to make that clear.
We're going to send a plan to you all straight away, just so that it identifies that area.
That's very kind.
Okay, that's just for information purposes, is it? It's not
Yes,
to be
it is.
Just,
no
okay,
change.
thank you.
Yeah.
Fine.
Right,
do
done.
licensing officers have anything to add?
Nothing further from me, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Governance officers? No. Okay. We've reached the end of the meeting. The committee now has all the information we need, and we will retire to make our decision in private session. We will not announce the decision today. Instead, the hearing on this application will be closed and the live broadcast will end. A summary of the decision will be sent to the parties within 5 working days of today's hearing, and a full decision will follow as soon as possible thereafter. Thank you all for attending. The hearing is now closed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Thank you.